I believe in Generation Z. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Stand Firm Project. Today I want to make a declaration. I believe in Generation Z. Now, I got to qualify it, just like any good talk. I believe in God alone, actually. He's the only thing in life that won't let you down. And he's the only thing that's perfect and the only thing that can bring us to fulfillment. So I believe in God. That's what we say in the Creed. I don't just believe that God exists, I believe in him. Sometimes we think of the height of our faith as believing that God exists. That's not really that big of a deal. In fact, even just by reason, we can reason that something like God exists. If your coach on the basketball team says to you, hey, I believe in you, they're not saying, I believe that you exist. That's a pretty lame statement. They're saying, I believe that you can do what you're supposed to do. When we say, I believe in God, we say, I believe that God will do what he said he's going to do. Namely, especially with regards to me, save me. That's the virtue of hope, the theological virtue of hope, that against all evidence to the contrary by the way I live my life and the dumb choices I make, I believe in him. I believe that he will save me. So when we really say I believe in God, what we're saying is I believe, of course, that he exists, but also that he is who he says he is, namely the infinite, perfect, triune God who, for whatever mysterious reason, cares about me. There's another notion of a sort of belief that sometimes creeps up in modern sort of internet language. Sometimes you see a video of someone doing some good act, and someone in the comment section will be like, that just restored my faith in humanity. Or after seeing this, I believe in humanity. I believe that there's good. I almost gave up hope. And after seeing this one kid return a wallet, that restored my faith in humanity. It's like, yeah, you're going to get some videos of a kid returning a wallet. You're going to get some videos of a kid stealing a wallet. That's kind of the story of all of human existence since Adam and Eve in the fall. So, I believe in humanity, sort of. What does that even mean? But insofar as I said I believe in Gen Z, what do I mean? Well, on one hand, on kind of overarching hand of looking at God's providence, even after Adam and Eve sinned, he allowed creation to keep going on. And probably the toughest it ever got was when he realized, at least in the story, he realized how sinful humanity had gotten, so he created the Great Flood. But he still didn't lose his work with humanity. In some sense, God didn't lose his faith in humanity. I'm using a lot of air quotes there because that's a lot of qualification going on. But he still chose human beings, Noah, his sons. And guess what they did right after the flood? Things got real weird. They were messing up, and that's what their descendants continue to do. So God didn't give up on his creation, whom he loves. And of course, he gives the rainbow as a sign that he won't destroy humanity. The ultimate sign of him not destroying humanity is humanity's attempt to destroy God. The killing of Jesus Christ is that the consummation, the fulfillment of God's love for us in human flesh, in his Son, Jesus Christ, God united to human nature, who suffered and died for us, standing up to say, I will always be faithful to you. This is really what we mean when we say, I believe. St. Paul says, or St. James says, if we deny him, he won't deny us because he's faithful. And so, why do I believe in Gen Z? Well, on the one hand, because God believes in Gen Z in the sense of no generation is particularly worse or particularly better. Some people say, oh, what about the greatest generation? No, that was a real generation. These kids nowadays, they can't even tie their... Okay, yeah, just chill out for a second. Why was the greatest generation the greatest generation? Well, one way you could look at it is sort of any historical account, but I think one historical account that was researched very in depth was the mini-series from about 20 years ago, The Band of Brothers. And in The Band of Brothers, they show these kids back in the day, human beings are just in general kind of the same. And yeah, every sort of generation has its strengths and weaknesses, but the reason they were the greatest generation is because there was very high expectations placed on them. No 18-year-old wants to go to Belgium and suffer through the winter in the Battle of the Bulge, and yet they were drafted. A lot of them volunteered, but they were brought into this reality of fighting evil, right? Why? Because the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, our nation was attacked, and we needed to intervene for our own good and eventually the good of the world against these very evil powers that were at the time. Why? Much was expected of them, and then they rose to the occasion. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the greatest generation, but many of them were asked great things, and they responded. So great. I think if there's any weakness among the weaknesses of Generation Z, or whatever you want to call them, I've just learned recently that the new generation is called Generation Alpha, which kind of seems pretentious. It's Alpha. What's the next one? Beta. How does it get worse? But Generation Z, or my generation, millennials, I think one of the problems is there hasn't been enough expected. There hasn't been enough asked of certain young people. In the 90s, George Bush, the senior, talked about the soft bigotry of low expectations. People generally rise to the level that we expect them to rise to, especially our young people. We set the bar, and if we encourage them and walk with them and accompany them and challenge them, like any coach on a sports team or any conductor in a band, they'll rise to that occasion. At least many of them will. But if we set the bar lower so that they meet that bar, then they're going to meet that bar, but it's going to be a lot lower. And a lot of the ways in which young people have been raised is with the attempt to prevent any negative emotional events from infecting their life, as if anything negative is purely evil. Of course, that's not true. We need a lot of negativity in our life. We need to be told no. We need to feel bad when we do wrong. We need to work hard to grow, to build muscles, to get smarter. Education is difficult. There's a lot of correction. There's a lot of encouragement. Without that stuff, then we just kind of try to become bubble boys and girls, where we just try to protect ourselves from the outside world. What's easier, to have to go through some awkwardness or discomfort or growth, or to try to engineer all of reality to accommodate my emotional needs? Of course, not only is that unintelligent, it's also impossible. It's exceedingly frustrating. But to be practical, what are some good things that I've seen in working with young people these past 2 years? One is they have a high level of relatability. They love relationships. They want to be with people. Sometimes they get deprived of that. But they have a vocabulary that maybe previous generations didn't have. They're able to kind of express themselves and their needs. They don't have they don't have the best defense mechanism sometimes, but that also leads them to be more honest, to be more open about their struggles and their failings, to understand life is complicated, that I am insecure. Whereas previous generations might have tried to push that down. Sometimes we glorify previous generations too, to say like, oh, they were so much tougher back then. Well, I think when you scratch the surface, you say externally they were tougher, but internally they were going through all the same turmoil that everybody goes through throughout all of human history. You can come off and say, things are fine, but then deep down it's like, I'm dying inside. But I'm not going to tell anyone about it because that would be weak, and I don't show weakness. Well, people today aren't afraid of showing weakness, which can sometimes be frustrating or sometimes lead to sort of a joke here or there. But they're able to actually express their needs, say when they have met their limits. And we want to encourage each other in those moments to grow and to get stronger. But also, that's where it starts, that honesty, that vulnerability, that openness. Also, I have had the privilege of just working at great institutions and meeting so many great young people that have chosen the faith. And much more than in previous generations, once millennials or Gen Zs kind of choose the faith, they really make it their own. We get bombarded by a lot of statistics about people falling away from the faith. But I would say by and large, the quality of those who decide that they're going to live their lives for Christ, for God, and for meaning, they really go all in. It's kind of an either or. Either they leave or they go all in. Whereas previous generations may have been more comfortable kind of doing it as a cultural thing or getting married in the church because that's what grandma wanted, or that's just what we do around here. Those things have kind of gone away. Whereas, why am I getting married in the church? Because I believe God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that He sent Jesus Christ to be a part of the human race, to save me, to redeem me, to love me. And He established His church on earth, which gives us the sacraments, one of which is marriage, and that happens in the context of my bishop and the global church. Doesn't sound as romantic maybe as, because this person completes me, but it's a pretty solid claim. It's one that makes a claim on our lives. And so instead of just cohabitating for eternity, which is more common now, they decide, I'm going to make a concrete choice at the age of 22 or whatever, and we're going to have a bunch of kids, and we're going to go to Mass every Sunday, sometimes daily Mass. We're going to send our kids to Catholic school or make sure that their Catholic education is provided for in a very strong and robust way. We're going to demand more of our priests. We're going to demand more of our bishops. We're going to demand more of the faith life around us and contribute to it more. So a lot of sort of entities or movements or even parishes or schools are much stronger today than they were 50 years ago. Yeah, some have closed and some are weak, but the ones that are strong are getting stronger, and the ones that have life are getting more full and more life-giving, and it's having a great impact. And so when we get so quick to judge a generation and pick the people who are like the most stereotypical in a negative way of a generation and just come up with some easy broadsides of like, they're all weak or they're all this or they're all that. Of course, that's not true of any generation. No generation has just one characteristic. But in working with people from this generation for 5 years, I do have a great deal of hope in God, ultimately, as I said, but also like hope that things are going pretty well, actually. And if we think in terms of centuries instead of decades or even worse, like months or years, like I have a very high level of confidence that when I die, the church will be much stronger than when I was born. Thank you for joining us in the Stand Firm Project. Please like and subscribe and enjoy all the other great content.